Welcome to Whispers, Secrets, and Wounds. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel. Like this video, it really helps the channel grow. Share it with someone who might enjoy it too. Comment your location. We'd love to know where you're watching from.
Ethan and Olivia had always enjoyed a relationship filled with laughter and relaxed moments. Their evenings were often spent with light-hearted conversations, jokes, and the occasional glass of wine. That night was no different, just a simple dinner, the kind that only couples with years of intimacy can truly appreciate. The wine flowed freely, and their conversations meandered from the mundane to funny stories from their past. Ethan felt completely at ease, laughing at Olivia's jokes and soaking in the spontaneous energy she brought to their relationship. It was in this peaceful atmosphere that Olivia casually said something that took Ethan by surprise. "What if we invited Jake over for a night? Maybe the three of us could have some fun together." The suggestion was so unexpected and out of left field that Ethan froze for a moment, staring at Olivia, waiting for her to break into laughter and reveal it was all just a joke. But instead, Olivia held his gaze with a playful smile on her lips, as if she meant every word. Ethan tried to laugh, as he always did when Olivia said something shocking, but this time the humor didn't come easily. Jake, his childhood best friend, had been a part of their lives for so long that he felt like family. Ethan never imagined that his deep friendship with Jake would ever mix with his relationship with Olivia. "Have fun? What exactly do you mean?" he asked, a little uncomfortable, still trying to figure out where this conversation was headed. Olivia didn't back down. "Oh, it would be interesting, right? Like a game, the game of seduction. You just sit there watching Jake seduce me, and you couldn't do anything." She said this laughing, but something in her eyes showed that perhaps there was more to that suggestion than he initially thought. Ethan smiled, still trying to take it lightly, but the idea of watching someone, and that someone being Jake, seduce his wife was too unsettling to be just a joke. For a few moments, Ethan thought about responding in kind, maybe saying something provocative back, but the thought quickly vanished. Olivia kept laughing, and he decided it was best to end it right there. But as was typical for them, he played along for a brief moment, letting his imagination run wild. "What an absurd game," he said, still laughing, though his mind was trying to process the unexpected proposal. He knew Olivia liked to joke, to provoke, to see how far he'd go, and as always, they laughed together. The conversation took other turns, and eventually, the night went on as usual. When they finally went to bed, Ethan didn't give much importance to what had been said. In his mind, it was all just a joke fueled by wine and the good mood they were in that night. But Olivia's suggestion, even disguised as a joke, kept echoing in his mind in a way he couldn't completely ignore. That night, as the lights went out and silence filled the house, Ethan couldn't help but think about what Olivia had suggested. The next morning, the lightness of the previous night seemed to have been left behind. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows, illuminating the room as Ethan made coffee. He glanced at Olivia now and then, watching her scroll through her phone in that morning tranquility. The joke from the night before was still hammering in his head. Was Olivia really just kidding, or was there something more to that suggestion? As they sat down for breakfast, Ethan, still a bit unsettled by the turn the conversation had taken the night before, decided to bring up the subject casually, as if trying to clear up any misunderstanding. "That was a joke, right?" he said, stirring his coffee, trying to sound as carefree as possible. Olivia looked up and gave him a smile that left him confused. It wasn't the smile of someone who was just joking. "It wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. It would be fun," she replied lightly, but the seriousness hidden in her words was clear as day. Ethan felt his heart beat a little faster. She wasn't just kidding, or if she was, there was some truth to it. He frowned, trying to figure out if she was still teasing or if there was indeed something more. "Fun?" he asked, trying to appear calm but no longer smiling. part of him wanted to understand, but another part didn't know how to handle it. Never in all their years of marriage had Olivia suggested something so different. Of course, she said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. Just imagine, it would be an unusual experience. Something new. She said this as if suggesting a new restaurant or a trip to an exotic place, but Ethan couldn't see it so casually. A new experience, he repeated softly, feeling the weight of the words. Silence settled for a moment as Olivia continued sipping her coffee, as if the conversation were nothing out of the ordinary. Ethan, on the other hand, felt that something was changing, as if the proposal hadn't been just a joke, but a small window into a desire or curiosity he had never noticed before. The discomfort began to grow. He looked at Olivia, hoping for some explanation, something to bring back the lightness, but she simply finished her coffee and got up from the table, leaving the conversation hanging in the air. Ethan stayed there in silence, thinking. He had never imagined that a casual comment could leave such a big mark. But now, he couldn't stop pondering what it meant. You know that moment when you realize something has changed, even without knowing exactly what? For Ethan, that was the moment. From then on, nothing seemed to be just a joke. The following days passed in a sort of silent haze. Olivia's suggestion, once seen as a simple tease, now hung between them as something unresolved. Ethan tried to carry on as usual, but from time to time, the memory of that morning haunted him. It wouldn't be a bad idea. It would be fun. Those words echoed in his head, especially because Olivia didn't seem to be joking. One morning while they were having breakfast, Ethan decided it was time to confront the discomfort growing inside him. He placed his cup on the table more firmly than he intended, making Olivia look at him with calm curiosity. Without beating around the bush, he asked, "Were you serious?" Olivia, without losing her good humor, replied with the same lightness as before. Serious about what? Ethan felt his stomach tighten. It was hard to broach the subject without seeming vulnerable, but he knew he couldn't let it hang between them. About Jake. About the three of us. That idea of, you know. Olivia laughed softly, not mockingly, just with an air of amusement. Oh, that? Of course I wasn't being 100% serious. But I also don't see why we shouldn't try something new, Ethan. She looked at him with a sparkle in her eyes, as if suggesting a new adventure for the couple. We've been together for years, and I think we can step out of our comfort zone once in a while. It doesn't have to be exactly what I said, but we could be more open. Ethan listened in silence, trying to process what she was saying. Was it possible that Olivia was indeed suggesting opening up their relationship? The idea disturbed him. He knew some couples did that it was a valid choice for many, but he had never imagined it would come up in his own home. He looked at Olivia, searching for any sign that it was just another tease, but she seemed genuine. Even serene. Are you suggesting that we actually do this? The words came out more tense than he expected. Olivia sighed, as if explaining something very simple. Ethan, I'm saying we could explore new ways of being together. It's not about Jake. It's about us. But if you don't want to, that's okay. I just thought it could be interesting, that's all. She smiled, but this time, there was something different. It was as if she already knew he wouldn't fully understand, and that saddened her a bit. The discomfort grew inside Ethan, but he tried not to show it. It's just. I don't know if that's for me, Olivia. Clara looked at him for a long moment before responding. I know. But I just wanted you to understand that it's nothing out of this world. We already share so much, I thought it could be one more thing. There was something in her words that hit Ethan hard. Olivia wasn't just suggesting an adventure. She was talking about the connection between them, about a part of her he might not know or be willing to explore. He didn't know what to say. The silence between them began to weigh heavily. Olivia, noticing this, calmly got up and started clearing the table, as if the subject were closed. Ethan remained seated, staring at the coffee cup in front of him, feeling more confused than ever. Part of him wanted to fulfill what Olivia seemed to desire. But another part, perhaps the stronger one, couldn't bear the idea. It was clear that something had changed between them. Something he wasn't sure could be undone. Olivia's birthday was approaching, and Ethan, amid the tension building between them, decided that perhaps it was time to recapture the lightness. He wanted to bring back that relaxed dynamic that had always defined them as a couple. And if Olivia had suggested something bold, maybe he could surprise her, but in a different way. One that kept the playful tone that had always existed between them. On that special night, Ethan was determined to surprise Olivia. He spent the entire afternoon preparing an elaborate dinner, choosing the dishes Olivia loved most, and creating the perfect atmosphere for what he thought would be an unforgettable evening. Since that conversation over coffee, where Olivia had suggested something new, a provocation he hadn't known how to handle at first, the idea hadn't left his mind. Perhaps, he thought, it was time to show that he was open to new experiences, willing to try something different, something Olivia wouldn't expect. When Olivia came down the stairs, elegant and excited, her smile revealed a mix of curiosity and anticipation. She clearly thought the surprise involved Jake, Ethan's best friend, since it was with him that the provocations weeks ago had started. Seeing the carefully set table and the lit candles, Olivia smiled even more, her mind already imagining what was to come. Ethan, nervous but determined, looked into her eyes as he poured the wine and said, "Olivia, that idea you had, about trying something new, it hasn't left my mind. And I've decided we can try it." Olivia, surprised, widened her eyes and leaned forward slightly, clearly excited. "Really?" she asked with a gleam of anticipation in her eyes. In her mind, it was certain that Jake would soon be joining them for dinner. Then, the doorbell rang. Olivia could barely contain her enthusiasm as she went to open the door. But when the door opened, it wasn't Jake standing there. Sophia, her best friend, entered, smiling and unsuspecting. Olivia stood still for a second, trying to understand what was happening. Her gaze quickly turned to Ethan, confused. Ethan gave a nervous smile and said, "Sophia doesn't know anything, but I thought, why don't we both try to seduce her? Maybe something could happen between the three of us." What was supposed to be a bold surprise for Olivia was met with coldness. Olivia's smile vanished, and the excitement she had felt minutes before completely dissipated. This wasn't what she had expected. The evening, which had promised to be lively, quickly turned into an uncomfortable dinner. Olivia barely spoke, her gaze alternating between Sophia, who was oblivious to what was happening, and Ethan, who tried unsuccessfully to keep the conversation light. Sophia, always perceptive, began to notice the tension in the air. Olivia's laughter, so effortless before, was completely absent, and the conversations flowed in an oddly forced manner. The atmosphere at the table grew increasingly heavy. Sensing that something was deeply wrong, Sophia decided not to prolong the situation. "I think it's getting late. I'll be going," she said politely but clearly uncomfortable. Olivia and Ethan walked her to the door in silence. As soon as Sophia left, the silence in the house became even more pronounced. Olivia finally broke the silence, her voice cold and disappointed. "That was your idea, Sophia? Seriously, Ethan?" He tried to justify himself, explaining that he was just trying to follow her suggestion, but Olivia didn't seem willing to listen anymore. What he thought would be a bold and fun surprise had turned into the opposite, a night of disappointment and misunderstandings. After Sophia left, the silence inside the house was almost palpable. Olivia stood there in the living room, staring into space. The disappointment on her face was visible, and Ethan knew he had crossed a line. He tried to approach her, a mix of regret and confusion. "Olivia, I was just trying to do what you suggested." "I thought that's what you wanted," he said, his voice laden with insecurity. Olivia took a deep breath, crossing her arms over her chest as if trying to shield herself from the pain she felt. "I wanted you to understand, Ethan. I wanted you to realize what I was really saying when I made that suggestion." She finally looked at him, her eyes reflecting hurt but also a deeper sadness, as if something had broken between them that night. It wasn't about other people. It was never about that. I wanted us to reconnect in a different way, just the two of us. Ethan, stunned, was silent for a few seconds, trying to process what she was saying. "But you talked about trying something new. I thought you wanted to open the relationship, try different things." He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated with his own misunderstanding. Olivia shook her head, her tone now more sad than irritated. "No, Ethan. I wanted us to explore something new, yes, but between us. Just the two of us. I wanted to see if you still saw me. If we still had that spark. We didn't need someone else. We needed to rediscover us." She paused, letting the words sink in. Ethan felt small, realizing how much he had distorted her intention. That dinner, the surprise with Sophia, all of it now seemed so far from the connection Olivia was truly seeking. "I'm sorry, Olivia. I really thought I was doing what you wanted." Olivia's gaze softened for a moment, but there was still a barrier between them. "I know you didn't mean any harm, Ethan. But sometimes I feel like we're on different wavelengths. Like you don't understand me anymore. Like our desires are disconnected." Silence took over the room again. Ethan felt the weight of Olivia's words, and more than ever, the emptiness of that night hit him. There was no way to undo what had happened. No way to take back the poorly planned surprise. All that remained was the feeling that he had lost an important opportunity to reconnect with Olivia, to truly understand her. Olivia turned and, without saying anything else, went upstairs to the bedroom. Ethan was left alone, the sound of her footsteps echoing through the house. He knew that the mistake of that night wasn't just about the surprise itself, but about how, at some point, he had stopped listening to what Olivia really wanted. The house seemed even emptier now, as if that night had created a chasm between them, one Ethan wasn't sure he could bridge. Ethan stood in the middle of the living room, the surrounding silence enveloping him, and let his thoughts run free. He reflected on how the night had unraveled, but at the same time, a curious idea emerged within him. He laughed softly, an almost bitter laugh. "Funny, isn't it?" he thought. When the idea involved Jake, she was excited, smiling, full of expectations. But now, when it's Sophia, her own best friend, the reaction is completely different. This contradiction ignited a new flame of curiosity in Ethan. He questioned what was really going on in Olivia's mind. Was she ready for a bold experience only when she felt in control? Or was there something deeper, something he wasn't seeing? Is the problem not about the situation itself, but about the fact that Sophia is involved, he thought with a hint of frustration. As these thoughts swirled in his mind, a new idea began to take shape. "I know," he murmured to himself, almost as if plotting a plan. "On my birthday, I wonder if she'd accept a request like the one she made to me." A smile formed on his lips. "I'll ask for a relationship between Olivia, Sophia, and me. I want to see how she reacts. Maybe she'll finally understand what I was trying to do tonight." But as the thought emerged, something deeper bothered him. That inner voice he tried to ignore all night now shouted to be heard. It was as if he knew, deep down, that this wouldn't solve anything, that continuing this game of provocations would only push them further apart. Yet, he couldn't resist this internal provocation. It was almost a way to test how far their relationship could go. Ethan stood there, unsure if he was being swept up by a crazy idea or if this was truly what he wanted. Either way, the future seemed uncertain, and he knew the next step would define much more than just a new phase in their relationship. With this new doubt planted in his mind, He allowed himself to laugh once more, alone in the empty living room. Well, let's see what happens. Thank you for being a part of this story with me. If it moved you, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Whispers, Secrets and Wound Stories. We noticed many of you who enjoy these stories aren't subscribed yet. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel, you're becoming part of a community that values deep, meaningful storytelling. Let's continue exploring these heartfelt journeys together. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss our next story.